Does anyone remember a man named Paul Harvey?
Paul Harvey?
Yeah, he was.
He's told stories on the radio.
Yeah.
This is Paul Harvey. Good day.
Yes, that's right. You got
Now
it.
you know the rest of the story.
And that's what I'm trying my hand. I'm trying my hand at that genre, the rest of the story. By need I say it, the late great Paul Harvey.
Now you know the rest of the story.
Okay, well not yet. Okay.
It's coming though.
Okay. Sid Schectel had it with life. This is a true story, by the way. He was 17 years old, and for as long as he could remember, he had lived in grinding poverty. True, he wasn't the only one. This was in 1934, 5 years into the Great Depression. The stock market had crashed, and with thousands of bank failures, the whole country was struggling. Sid was a delivery boy for a drugstore in Chicago, where he lived in a tiny apartment with his father, mother, and brother. He hated his job, but he had to work to help support his family. It just seemed to Sid that nothing would ever change. Sid reflected that there was one thing good about working for the drugstore. It would give him the opportunity to steal the sleeping pills he would use to end his life. It seemed to be the only way out. Soon the time had come. His parents and brother had left for the weekend, and he had the dreary apartment to himself. He had read that whiskey and sleeping pills were a deadly combination, so he had a glass of bourbon and the sleeping pills ready. Sid had taken a gulp from the bourbon and was about to swallow a handful of the pills, but all of a sudden a voice called out, "What are you doing?" Sid whirled around. He hadn't expected to see his father standing there. "Why are you home?" "I forgot something." "I'll ask you again, what are you doing?" Sid couldn't think of a plausible lie, so he blurted out, "I'm going to commit suicide." Sid's father was stunned, but recovered enough to say, "Why don't we go for a little walk?" On the walk, his father tried to explain to Sid how beautiful life can be, how there were so many places in the world that he hadn't seen. But Sid had tuned him out. He was thinking, if he leaves tonight, I can still do it. Finally, Sid's father said, "Son, you told me that you wanted to be a writer more than anything else." Suddenly, Sid was listening. His dad continued, "Life is like a novel, isn't it? It's filled with suspense. You have no idea what's going to happen until you turn the page." Sid replied, "I know what's going to happen. Nothing." "You don't really know that, do you? Every day is a different page, Sid, and they can be full of surprises. You'll never know what's next until you turn the page." Sid thought about that. His father did have a point. Every tomorrow was like the next page of a novel. Sid Schectel did not try to commit suicide again. Indeed, taking his father's advice, he went on to turn the page each day. Sid eventually became a Broadway producer, creating such shows as The Merry Widow, The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer, Easter Parade, and Annie Get Your Gun. Sid created television shows such as I Dream of Jeannie, The Patty Duke Show, and Heart to Heart. And yes, Sid did achieve his childhood dream of becoming a writer. He wrote a series of novels that sold over 300 million copies. His books have been translated into many languages and are read and loved by people all over the world. Sid was born Sidney Schectel, but changed his name when he started becoming popular. Today, we all know him as Sidney Sheldon. And, as Paul Harvey would say,
Now you know
the rest
of the story.
Oh my goodness me, that's interesting.
That's a nice story,
It's
eh?
a true story. He wrote a biography called The Other Side of Me.
And what were the novels that all those novels?
Oh,
that he,
the most famous, a lot of them were made into movies. The Other Side of Midnight, and there's just dozens and dozens of Sidney Sheldon books. But all those TV shows, I Dream of Jeannie, and
quite
those Broadway shows, like he did quite well.
Yeah, I used to like that. Paul Harvey. He often would take something that everybody knew about,
Yeah,
like somebody who was a one-hit wonder or something, but then forgot about it, and then he'd tell you an interesting story about what happened to that person afterwards. And they go, now you know. I used to love it when he'd do that.
I know.
He's really a good, cool guy.